Hello, everyone. I'm so glad you guys are tuning in. This is our first video as a married couple on here. Well, on here at all. But we're so excited. We are currently on a US tour for a whole year. So we're gonna go to 48 states, 82 destinations, all within 12 months time, right?
Yeah,
You excited?
so fun.
Amazing. So a lot of you may not know about the US tour, or you're like, what are they even doing out there? So I wanted to give a little backstory of how this all came to be, how it all started, and then go into kind of the week one. We're 1 week as of today that we've been on the road. So we want to give a little recap as well. So back in April, before we were ever even married, God had spoke to me about going to different regions all throughout the US and hosting different events for Christian singles. And I just told him at the time, I said, God, I'll do it. Just have to be more specific and tell me how this works and what this looks like. And then I had a thought. I was in my prayer closet at the time, our prayer closet,
Yeah.
and I had a thought of an RV tour. Well, this same thing came up for me about 8 months prior, but I kind of shrugged it off. I knew it wasn't the right season. I was like, I'd never do that on my own. I don't know how that would work out before I had ever even met Douglas. And so, yeah, so God laid it on my heart again. And so I came and brought it to Douglas at the time, which again, we weren't even engaged yet. We knew we were heading there, but we knew, yeah, we weren't there. So I just said to him, like, I feel like this is what God has called me to do. Is this something that you'd be interested in doing, or what does that look like on your end? Because we had been having talks of conversation of like, okay, like if we do get married, when we do get married, what does that look like? Would we stay in this place now? Would we move somewhere else? Like, what does that look like? And so, we've been having those conversations, and so I brought it to him, and
Yeah, and I was immediately like on board with it. I grew up like traveling and staying in RVs and just I'm an adventurous person. I think we both are. So when she brought it to me, I was like, that would be amazing. I haven't seen a lot of the country. I've seen a lot of the Midwest, but haven't got East or West. So yeah, I was just really looking forward to it. And the first thing I said is, yeah, let's pray about it. And the second thing I said is, let me check with my work to see if that would even happen because I was working remotely at the time. So I thought that there could be a chance that it could work out, but you just never know. So
yeah, so he talked to his boss the next day just to kind of throw that out there, and his boss came back and said, yeah, that sounds amazing. You should absolutely do it. Make sure you take all the time off you want to see all the things you want to see while you're out there, which was just incredible confirmation number one.
yeah,
But then it was so cool because God always confirms his word. I've realized that as I built a history with God, is that when he speaks to me, he'll never just leave me hanging on like, is that him, or what does that look like? But he truly always confirms it. So actually, Douglas had a vision after that of, so if you see on planes, you see a screen with like a flag, like the arrows with, I don't know how to explain it.
yeah. So like if you go to like an airlines, it'll tell you where that airline flies to. So it have all these different like basically little dots and it'll go with airplanes and show you everywhere it goes. So if it's like headquarters where I'm from in Minnesota, it'll shoot from Minnesota to everywhere that the airlines flies from that area. And so I was in our prayer closet and I just had this like clear as day vision of basically Michelle like had a flag in her hand and was walking. It was like a map, and she was coming from down from Canada, walking across like a bridge that came over into the States. And she landed in Tennessee, and then she planted the flag in Tennessee. And as soon as that flag hit the ground, all these arrows started going out and going to all over the country in the United States.
Now, did you have that vision before I felt?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yeah.
he had that vision before I felt God calling me to go out and do this stuff. And so he had told me that, but I didn't really know what it meant. Like I was just like, okay, cool, like I'll write it down. And then I'm at church, probably a week or so later, and this guy that doesn't know me very well, he doesn't really know what I do. He came up to me and he had a full-on vision about this as well, and just spoke it over my life and said, I was going to be like an eagle, where I was going to go up high, and God was going to give me more vision, of all the regions and the places that I need to go to, and that I'd be going to different regions across the United States and different states to, just host gatherings and bring
Mm,
people together. And so that was just confirmation number 3, and so I was like, "Okay, God, if this is this what I'm supposed to do, let's go." And we sat down, and within a couple hours, we had a full itinerary of a whole year of what we were gonna do, which was, again, in God's strength,
mm,
because I couldn't have came up with that myself. And, so that was just incredible, and then God's just provided every step of the way, whether it be, um the RV that we got, we were actually looking to buy one for 3 times the price that we paid for the one we have now. The couple that we ended up buying it from took care of it so
mm,
well, kept it in such good shape, and we renovated it for 3 weeks, to truly make it home, and it looks amazing. It's exactly laid out, exactly what we need. It has so many windows, lots of light,
mhm.
which is amazing for, obviously, both of us work from home, and,
Yeah,
um yeah, so that was just a godsend. And then we have rental properties in Nashville, and one of the rental properties, the one that Douglas was living in and I was living in, before we left, we needed to rent out. Now we listed it in August, but we didn't really see any traction for it. And we were just praying, like, God, like, I just believe you'll make a way. And I just told Douglas, because his parents, we got married in September, and his parents were throwing us like a wedding party in October. So we were planning to go up to Minnesota for this wedding party, and we were planning to drive there. And I just told him, and I kept telling him, I said, when we go to Minnesota, we're not coming back. So we have to be prepared to be fully packed up, and moved out of
mm,
here so people can move in quickly. Which was crazy because I didn't know where that came from. I just truly thought and felt in my spirit, like, we're not coming back to Nashville until we hit the road full time. So we have to make sure that this place is ready to go. So we just started preparing for it. Again, we didn't know that this was going to come to pass, but I just felt it, and felt that we needed to prepare for it. And so and just trusted God with that, and started preparing, started packing up things and selling things
yeah.
and getting rid of things and making sure the house was just ready to go for renters to come in. And it was funny, literally the day that we left Nashville, we got a call, from a construction company that wanted to bring, their workers to live in our place, and they needed it for, I think we left on like a Thursday, and they needed it on Monday.
Yeah.
And so again, if we wouldn't have been prepared, we wouldn't have been able to get back in time, get our stuff together. And so just a quick word of encouragement, like, if you feel something on your heart that God is calling you to do, prepare for it. Step out in faith. Believe that it's coming to pass, because
Mm,
when we like, faith without works is dead. When we just sit there and we're like, okay, well, if it's from God, he'll just make it happen. God wants to partner with us in our faith.
yeah.
I was reading a book the other day, and I was talking about Ezekiel and the dry bones, and how God partnered with Ezekiel. God didn't just go and make those bones live. He partnered with the faith of Ezekiel to make those bones come to life. And so, yeah, just an encouragement that if you feel something on your heart that God is calling you to do, like, just start preparing for it. Whether that be, if God's calling you to change careers, like, whatever you can do to start preparing for it. If God's
Mm,
calling you to write a book, what can you do to start preparing for it? If God's calling you to move, or you're believing God that he's going to provide a bigger house for you, or more space, or a different living arrangement, start preparing for it. I've seen so much happen just from preparing and
mm,
stepping out in that faith, that I'm partnering with God in my faith. I've done this so many times where I'm like, okay, I don't know how this turns out, but I'm just going to walk in faith that it is going to happen, and I'm going to start preparing that the promise is going to come to pass. And if it doesn't, then okay. But yeah, most of the time in my in my life, it has, eventually, not in my timing, but in his timing.
mm.
And so yeah, we hit the road. From there, we were in Minnesota for 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it was
maybe
3.
maybe 4 weeks after when we were there for the wedding party.
Yeah, it was just shy of 4 weeks.
Yeah, about 4 weeks. Um, oh no, it's like 3 weeks because we got there like October 20th and we left November 11th.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were there for a short period of time. Again, his parents were throwing us a wedding party the weekend that we got there. And then we had this RV that we needed to get done. We needed to renovate it. And yeah, so we just got to work. We literally tore this thing apart and put it back together in 3 weeks. And it was crazy. We were out there for long hours.
Yeah.
Tell
Yeah.
them about your experience renovating.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm pretty handy, but I haven't done a lot of the things that this place called to do or what we wanted to do. So we put all brand new hardwood floors in it. We painted the whole thing. We basically gutted everything out and then started building it back up, which is so good because it's like it reminds me of like just like Christ and like you're broken and then he refines you and builds you back up into his image. And so it's just really cool to see the transformation as we went along. But yeah, we basically ripped all the carpet out, all the linoleum out. We took out cupboards, we took out, I mean, all sorts of different things, and basically started, yeah, building it back up. So we put in a fireplace that we had to reconstruct where an old TV was and an old radio system, and so we had to pull those things out and then reconfigure stuff back in. And yeah, I would say the hardest part about the whole thing is that what I learned is when they make RVs, they make them where the carpet is put in before any walls or anything go up. So when you're trying to pull it out, you have walls that have carpet in between them. So you can't like you have to get in between there and rip them out, and it's all stapled in, and the person stapling the carpet in isn't thinking about the person that's going to rip the carpet out, so they're just
No,
throwing staples in everywhere. So
that
my
was fun.
yeah, my fingers were literally like rounded out, like there was no traction or nothing, no gripping on my fingertips. It was like I was playing a guitar, and when you're holding frets and things that you wear that off. And so yeah, there was so many nights where we were in here till 1, 2 in the morning, and we
And like we'd just been married literally not even a
a
month,
month.
or I guess
Yeah.
just over a month at that point.
Yeah.
So like for us to take on such a big project literally a month into marriage was wild.
Yeah.
But it was fun. Like we were in here dancing, we had
Yeah.
paint all over ourselves. Like it was crazy. Yes, good bonding to experience
It
for sure.
was. Yeah, and I think it's such a testament to what God's doing and bringing two people together that truly are made for one another and can work together. And we've seen that over and over again where
Yeah.
it's like, okay, like we're on mission. And so yeah, it was an absolute blast.
And don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean there wasn't frustrating
Oh yeah.
moments.
It
Because
was
obviously you're two very different people. This guy's more of a perfectionist and I'm more of a just get it done
yeah.
type of personality. So when he's like, I have to do every little thing perfect, and I'm like, it doesn't have to be perfect. There's gonna be a couch over it or whatever. So definitely moments of that, but it's nothing that like caused big fights or anything. It was just like little moments of frustrations, but
Yeah, I
you
think
know,
it's learning, like you learn your partner, and in those moments, like it's really fun to get to like, oh, okay, like so yeah, it was so great. It was
so
challenging,
fun.
but it's like I think if it's like anything like that, like working
I
out
think that's just marriage.
or anything you do, yeah, you just like learn to grow and you keep
You just
building.
learn. You
You
just keep
learn.
learning. I don't think you ever stop learning in
No.
marriage because I mean, I guess if you're like someone who just stays the same forever, but if you're always evolving and your partner's
Mm,
always evolving, then like you're two different separate individuals evolving that you have to constantly be learning each other.
yeah.
So yeah, so that was fun. And then obviously as newlyweds, we did not want to stay and live with the in-laws for because the tour was planned for January 1st. So that was obviously October 20th. We didn't want to live with the in-laws as much as we love them for 2 months, over 2 months as newlyweds. And so we had a mission to get it done so that we could actually go to New York for the holiday season and just have some intentional time. We had eloped So we
Mhm.
didn't have a wedding sentence, like a big wedding or anything. His parents threw us a wedding party, which was amazing. But we didn't have a honeymoon or anything. So we really just felt like, because obviously after the wedding, don't mind Diesel, don't mind Diesel. You got it. So after what was I saying? Diesel, you
New
distracted
York, Beth.
me. So yeah, we went to New York for just over 5 weeks and really wanted to just spend intentional time because we didn't really get that in we got married in September and my parents were still with us for quite some time after we got married. And then I hosted a retreat and I had a root canal. What else happened? And
Oh my goodness.
beginning October.
Yeah,
We had to go somewhere.
you're back.
We had a lot of appointments. We were
Immigration.
home. Oh, I went to Baltimore as well. So for one of my friends was getting engaged. So we literally had spent like 2 days together since by the time we hit Minnesota, I think we had 2 days together, like nights, evenings together since we got married.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of a crazy season. Um And so we knew, like, obviously, we just needed to spend some intentional time together. And so we went to New York for just over 5 weeks, and that was amazing. We got to just experience all of New York, which was
So
awesome.
fun.
And that time, I think, really prepared us for the season because we literally were living in a 400 square foot apartment. This guy
Yeah.
literally thought he was like, felt like he was Godzilla.
Yeah.
Tell them what you like.
Yeah, well, so like our home is 1,700 square feet, so it's, it's a bigger home. And when you go from that to a 400 square foot apartment, like there is zero room to do anything. And so I was in the living room area, or so-called living room area, and literally I knocked over the lamp like day 2 that we were in there.
Shattered
Shattered
everywhere.
the whole I'm like, "Oh my gosh." I felt like just this huge person in a small room, and it was so challenging to get used to because there was no, like, counter space to do anything.
He dropped the
Uh
whole carton of eggs. It went all over the floor.
yeah, went to go make breakfast for my amazing wife, and I literally sat it on the edge of, like, the sink to the counter if like, there's that little piece there that you can and so I set it up there and so pumped to make breakfast, and next thing I do, I turned around and I had 7 eggs on the floor. So but yeah, it was fun. It, like,
No, it was fun.
it yeah, it got us ready to come into here,
And yeah, totally. And we had so much fun. We just got to really experience the city and have a ton of fun. And then we went back to Minnesota for the holidays. So, but when we were in Minnesota, we were like, we need to upgrade our current truck
Mhm.
because we're hauling a fifth wheel. And so we want to make sure, and obviously we're not just going like some of these people in these campgrounds crazy, but we're not just going to one spot and like staying there for 5 years. We're going across the whole United States. We're going to be going up mountains. We're going to be going in deserts. We're going to be going all over. And the truck that we had was getting high in miles. And so we wanted to upgrade. We didn't have to upgrade, but we wanted to upgrade to really make sure we had something that wouldn't cause us any problems and could easily tow the fifth wheel. And so we're like, literally we have, and it's holidays. So like a lot of days places aren't open. So we literally had, I think, 3 or 4 days maybe to
Yeah.
like find a truck and upgrade. And by God's grace, it's like when God guides, he provides every
Ooh, that's a good
single
word.
time. Like, and that's also a word of encouragement. If you're scared because you're like, oh, like God's calling me to do this, or this seems like a big leap, like, I just don't know how this is going to work out. Like, where God guides, he provides. And we've seen
Amen.
it. Like, we got back to Minnesota. We took that evening and didn't do anything. But the next day, right after he had a work call, we went to the truck dealership and we literally found a truck, the first truck we looked at. We looked at prices all over to different dealerships and stuff, and none of them were as good as the price of this truck. The truck was in amazing condition. Like his dad had looked at it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a used vehicle that literally, like, looked like it had never been used, and so, yeah, they came, and it actually and it have like the check engine light came onto it when they pulled it up for us to drive, and I just thought to myself like, what a blessing that was, because as a used vehicle, you never really know. But it was able to get like fully checked through, and just like I thought of that as like, okay, we're getting a vehicle now that like is being inspected and preparing us as we hit the road and travel all over the country. So they did a full inspection of it, and
Had to fix one thing on
one
it,
thing, yeah,
which was awesome. And but obviously, like we didn't know like timelines.
yeah,
Like we had a plan to get out on a certain date, and we had a plan to like hit the road January 1st. That was kind of the goal. But we're like, God, it's up to you. It's your
hmm,
timing. Like we just trust in you, and we trust that you're gonna send us whenever. And if we have to change and change our schedule and pivot just different places that we're going, then that's fine. And we have had to do that a little bit.
yeah,
And so then we ended up, yeah, getting the truck back on Tuesday. We right after Christmas, we
yeah.
had to get a, what is that called?
We had to get the fifth wheel hitch, like the rails, put in the back of the truck. So it's basically there's
Because every truck is different.
yeah,
We
and
can't just get that stuff and just throw it
throw it in
together.
there. Yeah, so we had to take it to somewhere for them to install it. And yeah, so we ended up doing that
So we
on
did that on
Thursday.
Thursday, and then I was supposed to have a doctor's appointment for my back on Monday, but we couldn't get my MRI in time. My MRI had to be sent up from Nashville. Douglas did all he could to get it sent up sooner, and it didn't arrive until
Wednesday.
Wednesday, but they didn't have appointments Thursday. So we were originally planning to leave Wednesday,
Yeah.
but we didn't actually leave till Friday, which was fine. It just cut our days in Nashville short by 2 days, but we were still able to go back to Nashville, go to our church. Our pastors prayed for us and over us, which was
Mm,
just so special. Able to see my old roommate Helen, which was awesome, and a few other people. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I think the big thing that I just thought about when you're talking is the weather. Like my dad came to me and said like, y'all are living a blessed life because it should be -10 degrees here now. And like the weather was impeccable. Like it was so good the whole time we were even
You're
like
talking in Minnesota.
yeah, in Minnesota. We were renovating the
It was
RV,
oddly
like
weird.
oddly warm, and like it was just it was incredible. And so literally the day after we left, my dad texted both of us and said, "We got an inch and a half of snow."
And all of a sudden it got really cold. Like then even the day we left, there was like frost on the ground. We're like, oh, we're getting out just in time. And it
Yeah,
was crazy because like I think you've never seen like a brown Christmas in
it's
Minnesota.
been a long, yeah. I can't remember one.
So, and that's just a, testament. And that's one thing we were like worried about, is because we're like, we have to get this thing out because if you think of RVs, like you don't want the pipes to freeze on them.
Mhm.
And so if you're in a place that's too cold and it's not winterized, it's gonna freeze.
Yeah,
Thankfully, ours had already been winterized, so we didn't have to worry about any of that. But it's just, obviously the roads, like you're hauling a fifth wheel
yeah,
that we haven't done before.
right.
And so it was just literally God's grace, to just have the weather so great for us to get out, and then literally as we left.
Yeah.
So it's just God's in the details. He's so specific.
Hmm.
And then we stopped in Missouri to see your cousin.
Yeah, we did on the way to Nashville.
Well, that's where we're at in the story, aren't
Yeah.
we?
Yeah, you were telling them about the church.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then we saw Helen and
So we stopped
yeah.
in Missouri and then we went to Nashville. We were able again go to our church, which is awesome. Um, And then we literally hit the road January 1st, but we were supposed to actually go to Gatlinburg the first night on January 1st. And we were this couple actually were gonna allow us to stay on their property, and it was called a Heaven's View. It was so beautiful. And such a nice, like lovely Christian couple.
Mhm.
But we kind of had talked about it because this is obviously like when you're walking into transition and adjustments with things, it's so challenging to just navigate things. And it's been
Mm,
such a learning, like we're a week in and we've learned
So
so much.
much.
And so we were only supposed to be there for 2 days and then come to Charlotte, where we are now in North Carolina, for 4 days and then hit the road again. But what I realized when we were in Nashville was that we just had so much to learn, and we needed to be in one spot to just really get our hands on it,
Yeah.
and be able to navigate it. So when we were in Nashville, we literally, like, the first night, the battery, like, tell them about the battery.
Yeah, so the battery, this is a 2004 RV, and so you have a battery, like you have a battery in your car, for those that I guess aren't familiar. And
Which
I wasn't,
most of them
yeah,
probably
and
aren't.
I wasn't familiar either, so I'm right there with you. We both weren't. And so you have basically a battery, and the battery powers your light. So the light switch, you flip it on, and it also powers like the heat and getting the heat going. And so we would literally have a battery that would work for like 3 hours and then it would die. And so we were constantly out there with a battery charger charging it, and it just became like it was a pain. Like it literally wouldn't stay charged. And so we wouldn't have lights or we wouldn't have heat. And then so literally like the first night we
We
had no heat.
we had half a heat. Like, it was like an hour of heat and then it went off.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, and nothing was really working. We're trying to just navigate it, and yeah, and you're plugged in, so it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, this should work, and we have propane, so like that's not an issue. And so yeah, we were trying to navigate that the first night. And so yeah, we literally went to bed and woke up freezing cold. It was so cold. I don't know if I've ever been so cold in my life. Actually, I'm from Canada, so I've definitely been that cold. But
Yeah.
I don't like sleeping in the cold. Like, you want to sleep in a nice warm bed, you know?
Mm,
And so that was like the first thing that we had to navigate. And then you found out it was actually the
fuse.
fuse,
Yeah.
and literally the moment he got it fixed.
It was like a Christmas tree lighting. It was the craziest thing ever. Like everything got bright, the heat started going higher. We were like
We're like,
cheering.
it's a jackpot. Finally got it.
Yeah, YouTube is so good. Like I literally was searching like everything I could to try to figure it out, and so
Yeah, and then when we got to Nashville too, like, obviously we'd never lived in an RV, so we renovated this place, but we didn't really secure the furniture down. Now, when you're driving the fifth wheel for 14 hours, things are moving around.
yeah.
And so we were able to see, like, okay, what needs to be like secured. And so we had to go to Home Depot and get things to secure things down and all of that. So I think that was like such the learning curve in Nashville, which taught me, like, okay, we just need to get somewhere and be somewhere for like a week so we can figure out all these things. We can do the little fixes that we need to really be able to hit the road strong and build it on a firm foundation rather than like 2 days. And I'm so glad we did,
Yeah.
because then when we came to North Carolina, so we drove from Nashville to Charlotte, North Carolina. We had a problem with the propane the first night, and we had no heat at all in here, and like, we got in late. And so if we would have been in Gatlinburg on the top of a mountain, it would have been way
Freezing.
colder. Like, we wouldn't have been in an RV park to just be able to go and get propane. And so there was so much like when God, like, it was all God,
It was.
because he just, yeah, it's crazy. And so we had to figure out the propane stuff, and then we had to figure out the hot water, and we
Yeah.
had to figure out all the things. So it's definitely been a learning curve. I don't think we need to go into all the
No.
other details, but we've had a lot of little issues, but it's not issues, nothing's broken. It's just that we need to navigate new things.
Yeah, and
And we had to change a tire too.
yes, we did. Yeah. I think it's like it's good to talk about it though, because people probably think like you're on this adventure and it's all
everything's
rainbows and
rainbows and
butterflies and you guys are
butterflies, yeah.
just doing great, and it's like, yeah, it's amazing, but there's things that come up that neither of us have navigated, and we're just learning and figuring it out on our own, and it's a victory. And I remember A funny quick story. I remember when we got the heat going, figured the propane out. I literally ran into the RV.
I did it! I did it! It's
I
like
was,
you won the Olympics. It
yeah.
was so funny.
So yeah, it's so fun.
Yeah. So, but yeah, now we're a week in, so that's kind of a week recap. It's been a lot of just, yeah, just working on navigating new things and figuring this whole thing out. We actually went for a walk this morning, and some of these people are crazy. They live here at the RV park for probably years, the way they're set up. They got sheds in the back. They made full wooden bars at their campsite, full on like what are those the porches?
Yeah, they got decks and like they got
They like
barbecues.
built up like decks and full on barbecues. Like I'm like these people are full on living here.
Yeah.
Like they ain't leaving. Yeah.
We are saying
Bye
see
bye.
ya, see you next
See you
time.
at the next destination. To those that aren't staying at
Yeah.
this one. But yeah, so and it's been nice because it's been really a lot of just being present and here and together
Yeah.
and really intentional time together. Like last night we just got Yahtzee and started, played a game of Yahtzee and cooked dinner together and that was really special and then but the coolest thing is that we actually got the opportunity to speak at a church here in North Carolina and it was just amazing. Like God just blew us out of the water on literally our first stop and just what he's doing and it was really cool because Douglas actually got to speak to the guys and I got to speak to the women and it was a youth event and so he got to really share about his testimony and just things and navigating different struggles he's had in his life and which actually resonated so much with some of the younger guys and they were able to talk to him and ask him a lot of questions and really just be vulnerable and it be such a safe environment
Mm.
and then I was able to share my story with the ladies and yeah just be able to pour out and just some of the testimonies that came were amazing after one of the girls came up to me and she just shared that she was supposed to be at this church conference right now with all her friends and her boyfriend and because passion's going on right now and she was supposed to be there and she was just really bummed out because she just really felt God say don't go and so she listened and I was just so proud of her for
Yeah.
her obedience but she's like I cried all the way here. I didn't want to come because usually all my friends would be here and no one's going to be here and so I just didn't want to come. She's like but when I heard your story, I realized the reason I wasn't supposed to go to the conference was you. I needed to hear what you had to say. And it was just so beautiful. And she just went into detail. She's like, God gave me the word surrender for this year. And every time you said surrender, you kept looking at me. And I don't think you meant to do it, but it was just God's reminder that like you were speaking to me through him. Or he was speaking to me through you and which is just so beautiful and she had recently went in her Bible and just like started writing on cue cards like every verse that came up for her that God told her to write down and then when I was speaking she's like you literally mentioned every single one of those verses and that was just one beautiful testimony but as she was talking to me, there was another girl standing beside me, and she was asking, or she was just listening in. And I just had a word for her from the Lord. I just really felt like He wanted to tell her, like, she's not forgotten. And so I just said, I don't know why I'm supposed to tell you, but I just believe I'm supposed to tell you that you're not forgotten. And she just burst into tears, and it was just really powerful to just hear her story and it was crazy because she literally was like, I had a dream about you last night. And I was
Mm.
like, whoa, that's wild. Like God gave her a dream with me in it. And I was just able to encourage her and just yeah, it was just so beautiful, such a beautiful experience. And just wow, we're just blown away by what God is already doing, and it's only stop one.
Yeah. Yeah, it truly was an amazing experience and yeah, one of the young men that came and talked to me, he had said before, he goes, I wasn't feeling well. He's like, I felt like I had the flu. I was up and down and up and down. And he's like, I didn't want to go. And he's like, I just felt this nudge that like I needed to go. And that happens a lot of times where you like God's trying to get you somewhere and the enemy's trying to keep you from going there because there's breakthrough that happens. And um So yeah, he ended up coming, and his brother actually goes to the church, and so he was visiting because colleges were on break for the holiday, and so he was just in town visiting, and so he came with his brother, and he came up to me afterwards and just thanked me for sharing my story, and he said basically told me he's like I didn't want to come tonight, I wasn't feeling well, and he's like I basically had no hope, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't really want to continue on because I was just I was done. And he's like, hearing what you had to share literally is everything that I'm walking through. And he thanked me and wanted to give me a huge hug. And so yeah, I think it's his yes to show up, but it's also our yeses to say, okay, God, like I've never done this before and I'm nervous,
Mm.
but like I need to be obedient, just like the young girl was that said, "No, I'm not going to go with all my friends. I'm going to be obedient to the Lord and stay home because I don't know why, but um, there was a reason why."
Yeah, and yeah, I think that's just a word of encouragement. Like, um, yeah, don't allow the enemy a seat at your table. Like, there's a reason you need to be in specific places with specific people. There's a reason that we needed to go to that church, even though like my ministry is Christian singles, it's not youth, but God isn't a God that you put into boxes.
Yeah.
And yes, my ministry and what I do may be Christian singles, but he can still use me in other areas, in other places, and in other spaces. And yeah, I've realized just to really not put God into a box of what he can do. And yeah, as this is obviously getting posted on the Christian singles page, I would just encourage you with that too. Don't put God into a box. Like, I know I hear it all the time. People are like, oh, I don't want to come to your event because I'm a little older or I'm a little younger and I won't fit in. Well, I'll tell you, number one, no one has came and like didn't fit in before. But I also will encourage you that like our summer retreat, like one of the guys was younger and there was a girl there and she was like, hey, like you're not a fit for me, but I really think you would hit it off with my sister. And she introduced them and they're in a relationship now. And it's just like not putting God into a box, not saying,
So
if
good.
you have that nudge to go somewhere, to be somewhere, to if you have that nudge to go to any of our retreats, there's probably a reason for that. And that might not be because you're going to meet your future spouse. That might be because God wants to teach you something, or he's preparing you for something, or he needs you to meet someone who's there. And it may be a divine connection that's not a relationship. It may be your new best friend. It may be a
Hmm.
spiritual mother. It may be a spiritual sister. It may be a spiritual father. It may be whatever. Like God is a God that you don't put in boxes because he doesn't deserve to be put in a box. Like we've seen him work so specifically in so many ways that I don't dare put him in a box. Like he's all powerful, almighty, and he's gonna do whatever he wants to do in his will. And so I just say, God, your will, not mine. But if I feel a nudge to go somewhere or be somewhere, I just need to do it.
Yeah, amen.
Yeah, so that's kind of week number one. Officially week number one. We've been to Minnesota, Missouri, Nashville, Charlotte, North Carolina. Week number one.
Yeah.
And it's just getting started. We're just getting started. We'll be hopefully posting weekly updates for you all, or doing something. I know so many people have asked me for it, and I'm like, I don't want this to become a distraction to what we're supposed to be doing. So if we find it does, we probably won't be doing that. But for now, we'll continue to just post weekly updates so that you all get a chance to hear all about the journey. And so I would love if you guys could be praying for us as we're on the road traveling, just for safety, just for open doors, divine connections to be where we're supposed to be. Next stop, we actually this Saturday we have a meetup in Charlotte, North Carolina. We're gonna do a games day at a game cafe, which will be fun.
Yeah.
And then Sunday we'll be heading to Charleston, South Carolina. So yeah, would love to meet you guys on the road. Thanks for coming and listening if you've gotten this far in our update.
Thanks for sticking with us.
Yeah. Anything you want to add?
No, I think we're just yeah, we're really expectant of what God's doing in 2024, and not only between us, the Christian Singles Hub, but I think all of you that are watching this and those that aren't, I think there's just so much breakthrough that's going to happen this year, and it's truly going to be a year to remember. So,
Mm.
yeah, follow along with us and
Get your boots on. It's
yeah,
go time.
yeah,
Like, yeah, I love that. I definitely feel like an unlocking is happening in the body of Christ, and some big things are going to happen this year, some things that we don't expect, and we're already seeing that. We're seeing a lot of breakthrough. And so, yeah, let's go. We're ready for it.
let's
Hope you
go.
guys have a great day, great week, and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.